Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to crave your indulgence to please.
Please permit me to most sincerely thank the lady and gentlemen whom I have appointed to serve in the National Broadcasting Commission NBC Reform Implementation Committee. I'm most delighted that you all made it here despite the fairly short notice. There is no further testimony to your patriotism, and I thank you all. Before I proceed to the reason we are here today, let me give you a quick background. Following the deliberations at the Federal Executive Council of March 27, 2019, on the unprofessional and unethical conduct of some broadcast stations, especially before and during the last general elections, President Muhammadu Buhari directed me to institute an inquiry into the conduct of the stations and report back to the council. Consequently, I inaugurated a 5-member committee on Wednesday, April 10th, 2019, with the following terms of reference. 1. Find out to what extent the NBC was able to effectively carry out its regulatory role before and during the 2019 general elections. And 2. Recommend measures that could strengthen the NBC's regulatory role and make it more effective. The committee submitted its report on April 21st, 2019 with 26 recommendations, and I subsequently forwarded the report to Mr. President, who has since approved them. Highlights of the recommendations approved by Mr. President are as follows. A. Independence of the NBC from political interference in the exercise of its regulatory powers, particularly with respect to the issuance and withdrawal of broadcasting license. B. A review of the National Broadcasting Code and extant broadcasting laws to reflect the following amendments among others. 1. Upward review of fines from 500,000 to 5 million naira for breaches relating to hate speeches, inciting comments, and indecency. 2. Willful repeat of infractions on 3 occasions after levying fine on a station to attract suspension of license. 3. Upgrade of breach of political comments relating to hate speeches and divisive comments to Class A offense in the Broadcasting Code. 4. Amendment of the NBC Act to enable NBC licensed web TV and radio stations, including foreign broadcasters, beaming signals into Nigeria. Recruitment of more monitoring staff for the NBC. At the moment, there are only about 200 staff monitoring about 1,000 radio and television stations. Deployment of adequate monitoring equipment and technologies for the NBC. Enhancement of welfare packages of NBC staff to avoid their compromise in the line of duty. We are now at the implementation stage. Hence, I have appointed 7 wise men and women to design the framework for the implementation. The members are Professor Armstrong Idachaba, who is presently Director of Monitoring of the NBC, Sir Godfrey Oabua, who is the acting chairman of the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Mr. J.K. Echuaya, Esquire, Director Legal Service, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, Hajia Binta Adamu Bello, Secretary, Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, Algon, Mr. Ibrahim Jimo, Director of Administration, FRCN, Honorable Abu Kingsley Ndubisi, a board member of NBC, and Mr. Joe Muta, Chief Press Secretary, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. Professor Idachaba will serve as the chairman of the committee, while Mr. Muta will be the secretary. The terms of reference of the committee are as follows: to implement the recommendations of the committee on the NBC reforms as approved by His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, to immediately commence work on all statutory, legal and regulatory framework for further legislative action on the review of the NBC Act by the National Assembly, to immediately assess and propose equipment, materials and training needed to make the NBC a modern and well-positioned regulator, to liaise with relevant agencies to ensure the provision of the manpower needs of the Commission to enable it to function optimally, to work out the modalities for a competitive and reasonable salaries, wages and other welfare needs of the staff of the Commission, to establish necessary protocols for the establishment or appointment of professionals or technocrats to run the agency, and appointment into the board of the NBC, to immediately establish and publicize a new sanctioning, fines and penalty regime that is in line with international best practices, promote professionalism and serve as a deterrent to erring practitioners against misconduct, especially hate speech, violence and spread of fake news, to establish and publish a new regulation for the licensing of web and internet broadcasters, international broadcasters in Nigeria, and finally to end all forms of monopoly detrimental to the actualization of the immense potential of the broadcast industry. The committee has 6 weeks to submit its report. I have no doubt that this committee, which comprises highly experienced professionals and administrators, will carry out a thorough job that will position the NBC as an effective and efficient regulator. It is therefore my privilege and pleasure to inaugurate this committee. I wish once again to thank you all for accepting to serve on the committee, and I wish you successful deliberations. Thank you. I think there's an alternate member who would step in case never available. That is the baby that was crying just now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Now that the committee, that much is given, much is expected, it is just appropriate at this point to request the chairman of the committee to speak on behalf of the committee. Professor Armstrong Idachaba, please.
For the confidence you have reposed in us, let me also quickly acknowledge my duty, also pay respect to your very hardworking assistants and advisors. Let me say we are indeed very grateful. we want to make the point really that it is the expectation of every Nigerian that we have a robust broadcast regulator. And that is because it is apparent that over the years, the role of the broadcast media has become one that is very incumbent, one that affects the life of every Nigerian, no matter which social class or political economic placing. And that is why we are glad that the NBC over the years, in its 27 years of existence, has been able to cultivate a broadcast media that is regarded as one of the largest in the world. We have, like the minister said in his statement, over up to 1,000 broadcast stations. That is a big broadcast industry. But that also poses its own challenge, as the minister mentioned. Technology is advancing. Human behavior, human character is also evolving. And we have found out that the regulator must live up to those challenges. In Nigeria especially, we have noticed a high inclination to political rhetorics, sometimes one that threatens the unity and foundation of the Nigerian state, one also that sometimes deliberately denigrates certain citizens and attempts to exclude even other political views. We feel that it is important that the regulator is positioned to effectively catch up with these challenges. And Honorable Minister, we are very inspired by the terms of reference. We can see that you are determined not just to make the NBC a modern and a well-equipped regulatory agency. You are also interested in creating for members of staff of the NBC the right welfare and regulatory environment. I'm sure that in all the years of the NBC, it has not witnessed this kind and this level of government intervention. And I think it's a new dawn for the Commission. I want to assure you that you have in your wisdom also constituted what to my mind is a competent group of people. Looking at their faces and their track record, I believe that with their kind support, we'll be able to give to you a good recommendation, one that will meet your vision of a robust, articulate, well-positioned broadcast regulator. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Good luck to members of this inauguration. Please, there will be a group photograph in the minister's office. After that, the meeting commences immediately. Thank you and God bless you. The baby, please.